Welcome to Malifaux University. 102. Models, Stat Cards, Crew Cards, and Upgrades. Other than your Fate deck, your models and stat cards are what you'll handle most during a game of Malifaux. Every master model will have a crew card that provides additional abilities and actions to the members of the crew, and some models will attach upgrades to models for additional game effects. Let's take the time to understand all of these. Like it says in the rulebook, Malifaux is a skirmish game. Remember this when you're planning out what crews you want to buy and build. You're not ever going to put dozens of models on the table. You'll probably never put more than 10 on the table, and usually only 7 or 8. You might want a few extra models on hand so you can mix up your crews for the sake of variety, but skirmish means small scale, not massive armies. When we talk about models, we mean 3 things. First, the model itself. This is the plastic sculpture that you'll assemble and paint. The models in the starter box and each faction versatile box are pre-assembled as a single piece, but the models in other boxes start out as pieces on a sprue that you cut off and glue together. They're usually gray plastic, but older editions of the models are made of metal. Don't worry about what your model is made of. As long as Wyrd made it, you're allowed to use it. Occasionally, Wyrd will release special edition models made of translucent plastic, and those can make for some really interesting effects when you paint them right. Sometimes there will also be an alternate sculpt of a model that can be fun to add in when you find one. Alternate sculpts still count as the original version in all ways. The second part of the model is the base to which the model is attached. Malifaux keeps it simple in that there are only 3 base sizes, 30mm, 40mm, and 50mm. It can be handy to remember that 30mm is just over an inch, 40mm is just over an inch and a half, and 50mm is so close to 2 inches as to make no difference. The model must be attached to a base of the size stated on its stat card, but it doesn't have to be the original base. Some companies produce artistic diorama-style bases that are completely legal for play as long as the diameter is the right measurement. Wyrd and other companies also produce base inserts that fit inside the base ring to create an awesome presentation for your well-painted models. The third component of each model is its stat card. Each model will come with a stat card, but if you buy or use older models and need the current edition card, you can download those from Wyrd's website in the notes below. The Malifaux Crew Builder app also contains the cards for every model. It can be handy to download the cards for other models so you can refer to them during play and understand what your opponent's models can do. Each stat card has the model's name and title. The titles are different versions or variants of the model you can choose to play with. No minions or peons have titles because they aren't that special. A few unique non-master models have titles, but they don't have untitled versions, so it's still just the one version of those models. Every master model has 2 titled versions, including Lucas McCabe, who has 3 titles. The titles alter the model's abilities and actions, often creating an entirely new gameplay experience for your entire crew of models. The cost of a model is how many points it costs before a game to add this model to your crew. You and your opponent agree on a game size, 25, 40, 50 points, any number you both like, but most games are 50 points. When you're first starting out, you may not have enough models for a game that size, so just play a smaller game. Fewer models are easier to manage anyway. For example, the Outcast crew in the starter box comes with the Clockwork Queen, Matriarch of the Machine, Bucketbot, her totem, Steiner, the Fortune Teller, and 3 mechanical misfits. The Master and Totem are always free and don't count against the size of your crew, which is why they don't have a cost listed on their cards. Steiner is 10 points. The Fortune Teller is 7 points, and each mechanical misfit is 5 points, for a total of 32 points. If you and your opponent set a game size of 35 points, that would leave you 3 soulstones at the beginning of the game to use later. Some models can be summoned, which is to say you don't start the game with them in your crew, but you can bring them into play later. Usually, only models with a Summon Target Number, or STN, can be summoned. This will happen with a game effect that lets you choose from several eligible models with STNs, like this Alp. The Bandersnatch would not normally be allowed to be summoned since it doesn't have a summon target number, but if there were an action or ability that specifically said summon a Bandersnatch, then it doesn't need an STN. The faction logo for the model is here in this corner. All the cards are also color-coded for the faction, but not everyone perceives color the same way. If you are ever wondering which faction can use the model, the symbol will let you know for sure. Characteristics are here and show some fundamental traits of the model, such as its station in the crew, master, henchman, minion, peon, or totem, and what it's made of, living, undead, construct, and so on. Several game effects are related to these characteristics and will be discussed in later videos. You can see that this Bandersnatch is unique, meaning there is only one allowed in a crew at a time, but it possesses no other characteristics. It doesn't even count as a living or beast model. The keywords on this side of the picture are Wyrd's way of making crews more thematic and streamlined. Take a look at Jacob Lynch. He's a Ten Thunders faction master, so he can technically hire any Ten Thunders model. In the lore, he's the owner of the Honeypot Casino, so he has the Honeypot keyword. All the other Honeypot keyword models fit into his casino theme. Mr. Graves is a bouncer. Gwyneth Maddox is a hostess and dealer. The Beckoners are escorts, and so on. If I want to hire into Jacob's crew a Ten Thunders model that doesn't have the Honeypot keyword, the point cost is increased by 1. If I'm playing Jacob Lynch and I really want to use this Tengu model, I can, but instead of 5 points, this model will cost me 6 to add to my crew. The exceptions to this are models with the versatile characteristic, like the Obsidian statue. It belongs to the Ten Thunders faction, as shown by the faction symbol, and has the Ancestor keyword. Since it also has the versatile characteristic, it can be added with no extra cost into any Ten Thunders crew for its regular cost of 9 points. The details of that process will be covered in another video. It is easy to become overwhelmed by the many options available through factions and keywords. At this point in the game, keep it simple. If you're using the starter box, use those crews to get used to the game. Take some time to learn the lore and pick a faction you generally like. Look at the master models within that faction and pick one of those. There are 2 versions of each master's core box, each with a different title and set of models. Between the 2 titled boxes, you'll have nearly all the models in that keyword. Wyrd has a release schedule on their website, so you can always see when models are supposed to become available. I'll take a brief moment now to thank all those who were patrons at the time this video was made, especially Mats by Mars, Sergey, Tom, Alan, Jason, Jeremy, Mikolai, Oleg, and Travis, and many more at the free student tier. Your support is essential to bringing these videos to life. Each model has 4 stats: defense, willpower, speed, and size. Defense represents the model's ability to protect itself from physical harm and attacks. Willpower represents the model's ability to protect itself from mental harm and also its power of self-control. Speed shows how far in inches that a model can normally move. Size represents how much space the model takes up. Keep in mind that size as a stat is only loosely tied to the physical size of the model. This Gearling and this Redcap are both size 1, but their models are about the same size as the Dreamer, who is size 2. Commander Burra and the Bandersnatch are also size 2, though they are physically larger than the Dreamer. Mr. Graves is only slightly larger than Commander Burra, but is size 3, just like Delirium, which is about the same size as the Bandersnatch. Oscar and the Mysterious Emissary are also both size 3, but Lord Chompybits, who is barely larger than the Emissary, is size 4. Sometimes the sculpt of a model may be larger than expected to show detail or for ease of handling, so don't get too fixated on how big you think they really should be. The important thing is to read the stat cards and go with what is written there. These stats are used in the game by adding the number of the stat to the number and suit of the card you flip. For example, if an enemy model shoots my Bandersnatch with a revolver and I need to use defense to block it, I would flip the top card of my deck, an 8 of masks in this case, and add 5 since that's the Bandersnatch's defense stat, giving me a total of 13 of masks. We'll get more into duels in another video. These circles across the bottom show a model's health. This represents how much damage it can take before it is killed. Many players put their cards in plastic sleeves and write on them with erasable markers to track damage the model takes. But another option is to use dice that you turn down as you go. If your model has more than 6 health, you'll need to use 2 dice or polyhedral dice like used in most role-playing games. Your friendly local game store should have the sleeves and dice you need if you choose to go that route. Most models have a soulstone icon at the left end of their health track. This is to remind you to infuse a soulstone when that model is killed. It always sucks when a model is killed, but gaining a soulstone other models can use for cool effects makes it suck less. The rest of the text on the front of a stat card is the model's abilities. It is important to remember that these are always on unless the text says otherwise. Look at the abilities on the Dreamer and Bandersnatch. Diversion affects how enemy models near the Dreamer can take their actions, so you have to watch your opponent's models. Incorporeal and Just a Dream both affect how the Dreamer takes and suffers damage. Ethereal Web gives the Bandersnatch a placement option when it first activates, and Tangled Dreams also gives it a way of reducing damage it suffers. Other models will have abilities that affect terrain, friendly models, which model gets to activate next, and more. It's a lot to keep track of across all your models. This is where it's important to be patient with your opponent and with yourself and to demonstrate good sportsmanship. You have many models with different abilities, and it's going to take a while before you are proficient at using them. Play friendly games. Most models can take 2 actions during their activations. Say you move the Bandersnatch for its first action, and then realize you really wanted to use its Ethereal Web ability to put it next to a Shadow Layer marker. Ask your opponent if it's okay to undo the walk to put the Bandersnatch back where it was, and then use the Ethereal Web, which says it has to be used when the model first activates. If you haven't flipped any cards yet, it doesn't make any practical difference and should be okay. Even in competitive tournament play, players will often be gracious and lenient in situations like this. Just don't count on it too often. On the back of each stat card are the model's actions. There are 2 or 3 types of actions depending on how you look at it. Attack actions are ways your model tries to hurt or affect other models. Tactical actions are ways your model tries to affect the space around it or the game itself. Signature actions have a little lightning bolt next to their names and can be found in either attack or tactical actions. Most models can usually take 2 actions whenever they activate. Each model can also usually take 1 signature action for free in addition to the other actions. If you're playing an encounter of 50 points or greater, then your crew leader gets a 3rd action during its activation, in addition to a free signature action. This isn't to say you can use the signature action only once. Unless it says once per activation or something like that, you can use your signature action for every action your model takes, but it gets to take it once for free beyond the 2 or 3 regular actions it is allowed to take. The last detail on a stat card is the model's base size, shown here at the bottom on the back. Some other miniature warfare games don't tell you what base size the model should be on, and this has caused problems in tournaments when a player mounts a model on a smaller or larger base than it came with. In Malifaux, you can use any base you want as long as its outer diameter is the size listed on its stat card. You can add terrain, grass, flight stems, whatever you want, as long as the base diameter doesn't change. Your Master Models card will have a little more information on the front. On this side, it tells you the name of the crew card to use with this version of the Master. On this side, it tells you which totem this version of the Master brings for free. When you're building your crew, you must bring the specific crew card and totem listed on your Master's stat card. With that said, let's take a look at crew cards. Here is the name of the crew card and the titled version of the Master it goes with. This is so you can double check to make sure you have the right crew card with the right Master. The next section is for all the game effects the card provides. Read this very carefully. The language here may say, friendly models with the same keyword as the master gain the following ability, but it may be more restrictive, such as saying only friendly unique models get a certain ability or action. Like you can see here, one part of the card says one thing, while another part says another. The crew card acts like an upgrade to the entire crew, so make sure you understand which models are affected by or excluded from its effects. These effects can be abilities, attack actions, tactical actions, signature actions, or any combination of these. Some crew cards have a power bar that can be charged up for a certain game effect. Charles Hoffman, inventor, comes with the Ultimate Creation crew card. This card has a linked grid power bar that increases in power equal to the number of pylon markers the crew has on the table. Then, the augmented keyword models get special game effects based on the level of the power bar. The back of the crew card conveniently lists all the special markers and tokens your crew commonly uses. Make sure you have those tokens and markers prepared before you play your game. You can download printable markers and tokens from the link to the Wargames Vault in the notes below. If a marker doesn't specify a size like 40 mm or 50 mm, it is assumed to be the regular 30 mm base size. Upgrades are cards with abilities, actions, and other game effects that are attached to models through actions or abilities on other models' cards. Some of these go on friendly models, and others go on enemy models. Jackdaw's Drowning Dream attack attaches a waterlogged upgrade to an enemy model. Ophelia LaCroix's Raid Boss ability attaches 3 improvised enhancement upgrades to herself during the setup of the game, and Von Schill's Soldner Kapitan ability can attach an equipment upgrade to himself or another nearby Freikorps model whenever he receives a raise in a duel. But what does that really mean? Waterlogged, improvised enhancement, and equipment is the type of upgrade, seen here on each of the upgrade cards. This type is a way of categorizing a group of upgrades from which the player can choose. The name of the specific upgrade will vary, but as long as the type is the same, it still counts as that type of upgrade. Here we see that Jackdaw's waterlogged upgrades include Catch of the Day, Set Adrift, Shipwrecked, and Siren's Sway. When he uses the Drowning Dream attack, he can pick any one of these to attach to the enemy model, who must then obey the rules on that upgrade. Siren's Sway, for example, adds the Lament of the Cursed trigger with a mask to all the actions printed on the model's card. It says it must be declared if the model gets a mask in the duel and immediately causes the action to fail, lets the Jackdaw player control a new action that the model takes, and then the player with the upgrade attached to his model may discard a card if he wants to get rid of the upgrade. As harsh as those upgrades are, Ophelia's upgrades are more helpful than hurtful. Flaming Sack, for instance, gives the model the Plink ability, which can reduce damage, Steady Blow, which increases the damage of its impact tokens, and a new attack action. Similarly, Von Schill's equipment upgrades like Support Shield provide other abilities and actions to help out the models with the upgrades. Just be sure to take note of the limitations an upgrade may have. If an upgrade does not have a plentiful limitation that lets you have multiple copies of the same upgrade, you can have only one of that upgrade in play at one time. Other limitations might restrict the upgrade to certain keywords, to only minions, or maybe to only unique models. Read each card carefully to ensure you know how to use it properly, and be ready to help your opponent understand it as well so you can both enjoy a friendly game. That's the overview of models, stat cards, crew cards, and upgrades. Pick up a printable set of all the markers and tokens you need to play Malifaux in the Wargames Vault. If you haven't already, join our Patreon for early, ad-free access to all new long-form content. And be sure to visit the Malifaux University gift shop for the latest in Malifaux-themed shirts, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Links are in the notes below. And remember, play friendly games, keep it simple, and have fun.